Imagine sitting down to play like a really high-stakes game of chess.
Right, the clock is ticking.
Yeah, the clock is ticking. Your opponent is just staring you down, and you make your first move. But there is a massive problem here.
Nobody actually bothered to tell you the rules of chess.
Exactly. Worse than that, you actually think you're playing checkers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you are desperately trying to jump pieces. You're sweating, you're strategizing, working incredibly hard. But your opponent is just calmly setting up a checkmate.
It's a brutal image, honestly.
It really is. And look, if you have ever hit the end of a 12-hour workday and you look at a completely exhausted version of yourself in the mirror and you realize you checked off 100 tasks but moved literally 0 steps closer to your actual goals,
Yeah.
well, you've experienced the exact trap we're dissecting today.
It is a profoundly frustrating feeling. And the thing is, it's entirely by design.
Right.
I mean, we are taught from a very young age that effort directly correlates to outcome.
Yeah.
The conventional wisdom is just if you're not moving forward, you just aren't working hard enough.
You got to put in more hours.
Right. Take on more projects and out-hustle everyone around you.
But what if the person who actually wins isn't the one sweating the most? What if they're the one who simply decided to, stop playing checkers, learn the rules of chess, and actually read the board?
That is the paradigm shift we are exploring today.
Exactly. So for you listening right now, whether you are trying to break through a career plateau or scale a business, or honestly just want to stop feeling so burnt out, we have a really fascinating piece of source material to get into.
You really do.
It's a highly concentrated promotional excerpt from Fazioli Publishing, and it's for a book by Obsidian A. Freeman titled The Power You've Been Missing and Why It Changes Everything.
It's a phenomenal title.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this because the text comes right out swinging. It makes this really bold claim that everything we associate with success, the hustle, the daily grind, it might be entirely the wrong metric.
It's a complete dismantling of the modern hustle myth. The author pivots entirely away from the standard definition of success. The core argument here is that the real difference between those who perpetually struggle and those who rise to the top has absolutely nothing to do with raw effort.
Which is wild to think about.
Yeah, it's entirely about understanding the hidden game that is being played all around you.
Now, I will say, understanding the game sounds a little ominous at first.
It does sound a bit mysterious.
Yeah, like it makes you look around the room and wonder what secret club you weren't invited to. But the premise here isn't like a conspiracy theory. It is just the cold reality of daily life.
Precisely.
The argument is that every single day you are in competition. You're competing for resources, for income, for opportunities, influence, and ultimately for control over your own time in life.
What's fascinating here is where the psychological trap becomes visible. Most people move through this daily invisible competition completely blind.
Yeah.
The text uses 3 very specific words to describe this default state: reacting, guessing, hoping.
Man, those words hit close to home. Reacting, guessing, hoping. It paints a picture of extreme vulnerability, honestly.
It is vulnerable because it operates on a complete deficit of information. I mean, let's look at why reacting is such a trap.
Okay.
Think about a mid-level manager who answers emails at 11 o'clock at night.
We've all been there.
Right. They feel like they're hustling. They feel like they were working incredibly hard, but structurally, they are just reacting to other people's priorities.
That's a great point.
They are guessing that this hard work will be noticed by a superior, and they are hoping it eventually leads to a promotion. They are exerting maximum effort, but they possess 0 structural awareness.
0.
And effort without structural awareness is just wasted energy.
So getting back to the chess metaphor from earlier, they are just reacting to the pieces moving around them without understanding why the board is set up that way in the first place.
Exactly. If you do not see the structure of your environment, you can't possibly leverage it. You just become a mechanism in someone else's strategy.
Wow. Which brings us to the core framework of this whole deep dive. Because if blind hustle isn't the answer, what is the actual mechanism to break out of that cycle?
How do we stop taking punches in the dark?
Right. The author hands the reader a conceptual map, and they call it the power ladder.
Yeah, the power ladder.
The underlying premise is that life isn't random, and success isn't just a byproduct of luck. There's an actual structural progression.
A literal ladder with 5 distinct rungs. And the progression through these stages, it fundamentally alters how a person thinks, how they behave, and what opportunities become accessible to them.
So let's break them down.
Right. The first rung is the baseline. Survival.
Survival. Meaning you aren't really playing a game at all. You're just trying to keep the lights on.
Right. When you are in survival mode, your psychology is dominated by scarcity. You are entirely reactive to immediate threats. The rent is due tomorrow.
The car broke down today.
Exactly. You cannot plan for next year because you are entirely consumed by next week.
But then, assuming you get your head above water, you move to the second rung, which the text calls competition.
Yes, competition. So now your basic needs are met, but you realize you are in the middle of an ocean fighting everyone else who is swimming around you.
Just thrashing around.
Yeah, you're fighting for the exact same slice of the pie. You're applying for the same jobs, pitching the same clients. You're aware of the game, but your only tactic is to try and swim faster than the person next to you.
Right, so you work 80 hours instead of 60.
Exactly. It is entirely zero-sum, and it is exhausting.
I do have to push back here, though,
Sure.
because this framework makes it sound like an individual simply chooses to move up the ladder. But if you are stuck on run one survival just trying to make rent, you don't exactly have the luxury of time or capital or energy to sit back and ponder the grand strategy of your life.
That's very true.
So does the text actually address the very real gap in privilege and resources? Or is this just, theoretical self-help?
No, it is a crucial distinction to make, and the text addresses it. It doesn't claim that moving up is simply a matter of positive thinking,
Oh, wait.
nor does it ignore the friction of reality. What it argues is that people stay stuck on the lower rungs, not because they can't, but because they don't know how.
So it's an awareness issue.
It frames the barrier as a knowledge gap. If you are in survival mode, you absolutely have fewer resources. But the author's point is that if you don't even know that rung 3 strategy exists, you will automatically direct whatever tiny amount of surplus energy you do have right back into the competition rung.
Oh, I see. So you'll just try to work a slightly longer shift.
Right, rather than using that energy to figure out a new approach entirely.
Okay, so let's talk about that new approach. Rung 3 is strategy. Based on this progression, what is the fundamental mechanical difference between competition and strategy?
Well, competition is raw output. Strategy is leverage. Let's ground this in a real-world scenario. Let's say you want to make some money on a weekend, so you buy a cooler full of bottled water, and you stand at the finish line of a local marathon, selling them for $3 each.
Classic hustle. I love it.
Exactly. But if you are in the competition rung, your only way to make more money is to run back and forth faster, or maybe carry 2 coolers instead of 1.
Which has a hard physical limit.
You are limited by your physical body. Moving to the strategy rung means you stop just working harder and start looking for leverage. Strategy is realizing that instead of running around, you can position yourself at the exact choke point where the runners exit the park.
Oh, effectively cornering the market.
Right. You are using your brain to multiply the effectiveness of your physical effort.
That makes perfect sense. Strategy is a starter plan. But then the framework introduces rung 4, which is systems. And this is where I think the text makes its biggest leap.
It really is a leap.
How is a system functionally different from a strategy?
This is the pivot that separates the upper echelon from everyone else. A strategy is a smart plan that you execute. A system is a machine you build that executes the plan for you.
Okay, wait. Walk me through that with the marathon example.
Sure. Strategy is finding the choke point to sell the water. A system is hiring 3 high school kids to stand at that choke point and sell the water for you every single weekend while you stay home and sleep.
Wow. Okay, so you have completely detached your personal time from the output.
Precisely. The text emphasizes that the people who are winning at the highest levels aren't just better players at the same game. They are operating at a different level entirely.
Yeah.
When you reach the systems level, you are no longer relying on your own daily effort to generate results. You have built an infrastructure.
So if strategy is finding the current in the river, systems is building a boat so you don't even have to swim anymore.
Yes, that's a perfect way to look at it. And once you have built that boat, you naturally arrive at the final rung, which is power, rung 5.
The top of the ladder.
Right. You are no longer at the mercy of the water. You navigate it on your terms. You can decide to hire a captain, you can change the destination, or you can build a fleet of boats. You have total agency.
But mapping out this ladder doesn't actually get you up the rungs. Like, we can talk about building a boat all day, but how does Freeman suggest a person physically shift their mindset from just reacting to their environment to actually building these systems?
It requires a shift.
Yeah, and this brings us to the promised transformation in the text.
Right. The author describes a complete cognitive shift. It is a promise that the moment you truly internalize this structure, your daily behavior radically changes. Your scattered, reactive efforts become hyper-focused, your decisions become sharper.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I was looking at the specific linguistic shift the author uses to describe this transformation.
Oh, yeah.
It moves entirely from passive victimhood to active ownership. The text says you stop reacting and start positioning.
Mm.
You stop guessing and start deciding. You stop chasing and start building.
Those pairings are incredibly deliberate. I mean, let's translate that abstract jargon into something practical. What does positioning actually mean in a professional sense?
Right, because it sounds great on a motivational poster, but what is it?
Think about the job market. Reacting is waiting until you get laid off, panicking, and submitting 100 identical resumes through an automated online portal.
Ugh, the worst feeling.
You are reacting to an event, and you're participating in a system designed to filter you out. You are playing the competition game.
Okay, so what's positioning then?
Positioning, on the other hand, happens long before you ever need a job. Positioning is choosing to learn a highly specialized, rare software language that only 3 companies in your city use.
Okay.
It is taking the hiring manager of one of those companies out for coffee 6 months before they even have an open role. When the role opens, there is no portal. They just call you.
Yeah.
That is positioning. You have structured the environment so that the outcome is inevitable.
You are dictating the terms of engagement. If you are chasing something, it inherently means something else is setting the pace. If you are positioning, you are the one setting the board.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is really about moving from a micro view of your daily life to a macro view. The author promises that by adopting this mindset, you will recognize opportunities that everyone else misses.
Yeah.
But the line that is truly the heartbeat of this entire excerpt is the promise that you will learn to think in systems, not just actions.
Let's double click on that. Systems, not just actions.
Well, an action is an isolated event. You send an email, you make a sales call, you finish a report. Actions consume energy, and when they are done, they are done.
They don't compound.
Right, they do not compound. A system is an interconnected process. Thinking in systems means understanding how one single upfront effort can pay dividends forever.
So an action is like personally onboarding a new client by spending 3 hours on Zoom. But a system is recording a masterclass video once, creating an automated email sequence, and having the client onboard themselves while you're eating dinner.
Exactly. And the psychological barrier to doing this is actually quite profound.
Why is that?
A lot of people subconsciously resist building systems because they love feeling indispensable.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. If you are the only one who can solve a crisis at work, you get to be the hero of the moment. You get the dopamine hit of saving the day.
Right, the rush of putting out the fire.
But if you build a system that prevents the crisis from ever happening, nobody notices. You aren't the hero anymore. You have to sacrifice the short-term ego boost of hustling for the long-term leverage of systems.
And it requires a massive shift in identity. You have to stop viewing yourself as the hardest worker in the room and start viewing yourself as the architect of the room.
Exactly.
And the text suggests that once you achieve this systems-level thinking, you will finally know exactly where you are on the ladder and, crucially, how to climb it.
Which naturally leads us to the reality of the source material we are examining today. Because as much as this is a philosophical breakdown of human behavior, it is also a highly structured, deliberate pitch.
Right. We have to acknowledge what this text actually is. It is promotional material.
Yes, it is.
It transitions from this deep analysis of the human condition right into a tangible ultimatum for the reader. Freeman presents a crossroads. Stay where you are, stuck on the treadmill of competition, or step into a completely different way of thinking.
The author leverages the psychological principle of consistency here. The argument is that once you see the structure, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
If you agree with the premise that this ladder exists, and you agree that you are currently exhausted from playing the wrong game, the only logical, rational next step is to acquire the knowledge of how to change your reality.
And according to the text, that exact knowledge is conveniently packaged in the book itself, The Power Ladder, available directly from Facioli Publishing.
Conveniently enough.
Right. But I want to talk about the detail that really caught my eye. The book is listed at $62.
That's not cheap.
No. Most trade paperbacks or business books are, what, 20, maybe 25 bucks? $62 is a very specific premium price point.
It is, and it is absolutely by design.
Okay, I want to run a theory by you. Is paying $62 for this book actually the first real-world test of the framework we just discussed?
Oh, that's interesting.
Is this Freeman's deliberate way of filtering out people who are stuck in survival mode on rung one? Because if you are agonizing over a $62 investment in your own future, you are essentially proving that you are operating from a mindset of scarcity. You aren't ready to move from strategy to systems.
That is a brilliant observation, and it perfectly aligns with the mechanics of the framework. The pricing itself is a system.
Really?
It's rung for inaction. Think about the signaling happening here.
Yeah.
A $20 book is just information. You buy it, you leave it on your nightstand, maybe you read a chapter.
Right, yeah, there's dust.
But a $62 book, that is an investment. It is positioned as a masterclass, an elite operating manual. It fundamentally changes the buyer's posture before they even read page one. If you drop $62 on a single book, you are going to sit at a desk with a highlighter and take notes.
Wow, so the author is using price as a psychological filter to ensure the buyer actually implements the systems.
Yes. It anchors the perceived value of the insights, it filters the audience, qualifies the buyer, and reinforces the very lesson the book is trying to teach.
And Freeman closes the pitch with an incredibly sharp hook, a final thought that directly challenges the reader's self-identity.
I love this part.
The text states there are two types of people, those who play the game and those who understand it.
It drops the hammer with one final question to the reader. Which one are you becoming?
It is so well done. It doesn't ask a transactional question like, do you want to buy my book? It asks an existential question. Who are you choosing to be?
Exactly. It ties the purchase of the physical product directly to the reader's self-concept and their unfulfilled potential. It forces you to make a decision about your own agency.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's take a step back and look at the vast territory we have covered today.
We covered a lot.
We really did. We started by entirely dismantling the myth of blind hustle, the idea that simply running faster, sweating more, and putting in longer hours will somehow organically lead you to a better life.
We exposed the invisible, zero-sum competition that dictates everyday life. We broke down the cognitive trap of reacting, guessing, and hoping, and explained why effort without structural awareness guarantees burnout.
We mapped out the 5 rungs of the power ladder: survival, competition, strategy, systems, and power. We explored the massive mechanical difference between having a good strategy and actually building a self-sustaining system.
Yeah.
And we translated the abstract concept of positioning into the tangible reality of dictating your own environment.
Finally, we analyzed the architecture of the pitch itself, dissecting how premium pricing and identity-based ultimatums function as real-world examples of systems-level thinking.
It is a phenomenal amount to chew on. And regardless of whether you decide to track down this $62 book from Fazioli Publishing, the framework itself is immediately applicable.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow morning, when you open your inbox or step into a meeting, just asking yourself, am I reacting right now or am I positioning? It has the power to completely change the trajectory of your week.
The concepts of structural awareness and detaching your personal time from your output, they have value far beyond any single piece of media. But I do want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay.
Something that builds on Obsidian and Freeman's premise, but pushes the logic one step further.
Lay it on us.
The text promises that understanding the latter ultimately leads to power. The entire goal is to transition from survival all the way up to rung 5. But let's say you do it. Let's say you master the strategy, you build the flawless systems, you step off the treadmill entirely, and you finally reach the very top of the ladder. You understand the game completely, and you have won.
Okay, you're at the top.
Here is the question. Do you simply sit at the top of that ladder and enjoy the view, or do you look around from that new vantage point and realize that true power isn't just climbing the structure you were handed?
Oh.
True power is the realization that you now have the tools to build a completely new ladder with entirely new rules for everyone else.
That is a staggering thought. It's not just about mastering the game. It is about becoming the architect of the next one.
Precisely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a hard look at the treadmill you might be running on. Keep looking for the hidden systems driving the actions around you, and we will catch you on the next one.